next panel, and it means unlocking the connection between authenticity and audience engagement. How to be real and commercial at the same time. How to please the algorithm and how to be real and authentic at the same moment. So I'd like to have the guests here on stage. This panel is hosted by the director and producer in Germany, Syria, and Mexico, Lauand Omar. On stage we will have the award-winning screenwriter and producer from the USA, Jane Spencer, the TV host, founder from Farside Moon Media in Nigeria, and the president of Mounia Aram company based in France and in Morocco, Mounia Aram. Please welcome Mounia Aram also on stage.
Hello, Mounia.
I think it will take some time. Is she there?
There's great.
Oh, there, okay. So you take seats and you will open the panel?
Yes.
And stage is yours. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, well,
we got here on the
Mounia is in Paris. Can you hear us, Mounia? Perfect. Can you say something?
Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Okay, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so good morning. It's very early, but we made it. Ozzy, unfortunately, he cannot be with us, but he sends his greetings. Unlocking the connection between authenticity and audience engagement. This is what we are here for. And Stacey Tunis just arrived, so it's going to be great. Yeah, well, first I would like to... Do you have a microphone? Yes, you do. Welcome. And maybe we start with Jane. Jane, can you tell us a little bit about you, about your work?
Okay. Okay, it's working. Okay. Hi. I started in theater and studied at the Actors Studio, so I got to under Elia Kazan and Arthur Penn and some really amazing directors. And I'm also a director. And I started in theater and then worked at Circle Rep in New York City for a while. And then I got my first feature, and with Crispin Glover and Tatum O'Neill and Rick Mayall, and we shot that, and then we were very lucky and premiered at Sundance. And after that, I spent time making 2 more features and moved to Europe, and I'm working here now, and I'm working on a feature here called The Red Weather with Stephen Adams. He's over there.
Oh, Stephen. He's here.
He's producing. I'm very lucky. Grace Emilio, and we're also working with Daniela Jasprika. I don't know where she is. There she is. But we've got a great team, and we're putting that together. It's a story told in Italy about tolerance and about a lot of things that are going on right now overall in the world.
You are in Switzerland, I believe, now?
I live in Switzerland. Okay. I married a Swiss, so I'm there. And it's great because it's centrally located, obviously. So I've been working on films in England and the rest of Europe. And that's my story.
Perfect. Welcome. Yeah, Remy, you are in Berlin. I already know you had a screening last week, I believe. Tell us, please, about yourself. You're from the UK. Yeah.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Lovely to see you all bright and early. I'm Remy Loda. I'm a director and filmmaker and creative director from London. I am currently working on a TV series at the moment, but I mainly work in commercials, music videos, short films, and I guess a little bit about myself. I trained as a ballet and contemporary dancer, and then moved over to filmmaking a few years ago. And at the moment I'm working on a TV series. I had a screening last week in Berlin called Afro-Arab. It's one of my latest short films out there. And I think that's a little bit about me.
Perfect, thank you. And we are with Mounia, who is in Paris, I believe.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We hear you very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
How is the weather?
It's cold as in Berlin.
Yeah, here it's like, yeah, it's snowing and it's all white. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please, about, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Aram. I'm a professional from the animation industry. I've been there since 2003. So I started my career in Japanese animation. But since 2019, I launched my own company called Mounia Aram Company, focusing on emerging countries like Africa, Caribbean, and also the Middle East stories. I'm very engaged. I'm a council chair at the Gina Davis Institute for Gender in Media. I'm also part of the board of the Diversify TV Awards that may come. So I'm really eager to talk more about authenticity and diversity and inclusion in animation.
You said before that you've been very inspired by the authenticity in Japanese animation.
Yes.
How-
That's
yeah.
what inspired me to launch my company actually, because I worked in Japanese animation for many years, and I saw how they managed to tell their own story, bringing their own culture, bringing their own country, and share everything, but sometimes very obviously, sometimes very in a very subtle way. But we all know about Japanese culture from animation. Everybody knows about ramen, about the food when they watch animation. So why not do that with other cultures?
So, like, first impression when somebody watches Japanese animation and then you look at, for example, Moroccan animation, you are from Morocco, what would be the first difference you would notice?
The difference will be the culture,
Yes.
will be the setting also.
Sorry, I mean in authenticity, when we talk authenticity.
Authenticity is about bringing your own characters and your own story and your own culture through these stories
Yes.
that you can share. And about Moroccan story, it will happen, of course, in Morocco, and we will have some hint about the Moroccan culture by drinking the mint tea, by being in the setting of beautiful Morocco, and it can happen in different countries. I work with countries in Jamaica, in Africa, in other countries in Africa, in the Middle East as well. We have successful stories from the Emirates called Mansour. Mansour it's set in the Emirates with the main character being an Emirati, and it's about sharing different stories and different characters from all over the world.
Okay, sounds interesting. In your opinion, Jane, in your opinion, what does authenticity in storytelling mean, and why is it crucial for audience engagement?
I think it's always good when you start. I usually start with writing about things I'm very familiar with, like struggling artists.
Yeah, we can
relate. A lot
relate.
of my films have to do with groups of struggling artists, and a lot of them are very dark comedy. Believe me. And I've made, starting with Little Noises, I made a film called Faces on Mars about a group of them in Silver Lake, based on experiences and just people that I know. And I think the most interesting films, for me anyway, have an emotional, have things people can relate to. Even if you're not in the arts, you still relate to, people who are rather delusional, or people who are falling on their faces sometimes, and then sudden success. I mean, so I think it's really interesting to tell stories about what you've experienced. And living in New York and in Los Angeles and London, I kind of have stories for all three cities of this kind of thing. So I think it's important to do that. I'm not big on movies where it's so, where the characters are so far from being something you might emotionally connect with or know, like superhero movies. I can't even watch them, because it's not that It's just that I can't relate to these symbols wearing an outfit with a big, S on it or something. Spider-Man, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So I like intimate stories that I can relate to, and I think it's important. So.
Nice. You as a director, what is your experience being a female director in the States or a
Here.
female director in Europe? Is there a big difference?
Big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first came out to Los Angeles, I was represented by a fairly big agency, and they would send me out, and I literally was patted on the head at a meeting. I'll never forget it.
Oh my God.
I was like, why are you doing that? He's like, you're such a nice young lady. I'm like, whatever, So stuff like that was happening quite a bit, and I finally just decided, I don't care. I'm just gonna, function as a director and do what I want to do. And I got into independent films because it's where you can really have a voice. And then I moved to Europe, and it was much easier. It wasn't about really, for me anyway, your gender, or it was much more open for women here in Europe. And so I ended up making 3 films in Europe, and only really 1 film and kind of maybe half a film, because I took it to Europe, in America. And I lived in Los Angeles quite a long time. And also my projects are a little, as they called, arty. To me, they were just, unique experiences. So I really love Sean Baker. I wanted to mention him because he really went out there and just did what he wanted with his experiences and just brought unusual characters and unusual stories into the mainstream almost. So I really love that. But yes, it's very different in Europe for women.
It's better.
It's much better.
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here and I'm staying. So.
All right.
Okay.
Let's talk about the evolving media landscape with all the new digital platforms. How do you adapt your storytelling to that? Are you already in your mind, you have a story you want to tell? Do you already try and, figure out which way to go, which platforms it should be on? Because, the audience is watching other, how does this affect your creative process?
Me, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. It does change a lot, and we live in such a fast-paced world now. I think, especially when you're trying to put it on social media and different platforms, it can be very challenging as a filmmaker, and especially as a director when you're trying to. For example, in the commercial world, clients will ask you to shoot 3 different aspect ratios now, and you're like, what? Sorry. So most people, over the obviously you have your 16:9, which over the past however long, most people have just shot landscape, right? So, and then I remember seeing the development of we need this for Instagram or TikTok. So you end up having to shoot portrait as well. But they're but we want 16:9 as well. So you're shooting 9:6 and 16:9. So it kind of it can be quite challenging because you're as any cinematographer or any filmmaker or any director knows, within that frame tells so much in composition. So you kind of lose a little bit of what you're kind of shooting for and the aim. So those are some of the technical challenges. Obviously, I think that's something you really have to kind of be aware of when you're on set, and just knowing, oh, that shot looks really good. But then it's kind of challenging when you're thinking, oh, will that look good on TikTok? But it's the reality, and unfortunately, not unfortunately, it's a different audience. So depending on what generation you're trying to plug to, you have to really be mindful. Going, are they actually going to watch this? And as a filmmaker, obviously you don't want to be thinking about the audience all the time. You want to be from your gut. But the reality is how do you, if you're putting it on social media and you've got that in your back of your mind, you kind of have to think about your audience, right? A little bit. So you obviously with social media things are so quick, so you have to think about the pace of the edit. Is this breathing too long? For me personally, I love scenes that breathe, and the music can really come in and take you away, and just using that so many different emotional devices in your, you know, in your arsenal. But when you're on TikTok, it's like bam, 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 bam. How am I going to get their attention? Like, will this grab someone? Or on Instagram, for example. So I think those are the challenges. I can't remember your exact question, but I think
The question is like, you have an idea, you want to write a script, and you already have to think about where will this be shown, you know, which format do I have to, how do I have to think about the structure? Will it be for digital? Will it be for TikTok, you know? How does that, but you answered me already. I mean, it's part of the process. Is it for you as well?
I'm probably a generation back from you.
Yeah, for us it's worse, I guess, you know?
Worse.
The digital, the new digital
for me,
things.
I'm like, you know, for me, I'm kind of a purist, and I don't know, it's really funny. I remember Martin Scorsese coming to NYU and saying, I will never work on Avid because it takes the soul out of the eyes. And he really said that you don't see the soul in the eyes. And now of course, he's working on Avid and he's working digital. And he said, I would never work digital. And I was kind of, yeah, that's right, you know? As a student, I was like, that's right, I'll never work digital. And then I have worked digital and used Avid and now using other sources. But for me, I don't know, I think there will be a time, maybe I'm crazy, but that audiences will want to go back to going to the theater and seeing a beautiful film contained within, like you said, letting the scenes breathe, actually connecting with the characters, actually in the first act, instead of the big event happening within the first 5 minutes, actually having to get to know the characters that the event will happen too. And that, to me, coming from theater, that, you know, of course I learned structure in writing, and I think that's important, and I think at some point audiences, and I think it's already happening, might like to go back to film, and I just want to make, I will shoot digital, but I want my films in theaters, at least for some time, and then, yeah, streamers, you know, but I don't know, I'm a bit of a purist about it. That's, I guess, talking all the time. Coffee.
a lot of people have, just to jump in on that, I think a lot of people have made the switch back to film because we're so used to seeing digital for the past like 10 years. Mm-hmm. Everyone now is like, it's kind of boring to look at. Obviously it's not boring to look at, but to get an exciting image out of digital compared to film, it's a lot easier to make it more beautiful and engaging with film because we're so used to watching digital in the past 10 years. So a lot of filmmakers now just will refuse to shoot on digital.
That's
so cost a little bit more, but hey.
Well, if they can afford to shoot on film, great for them. Mounia, I would like to know a little bit more about the Geena Davis Foundation. What is it that you do with them?
So the Geena Davis Institute is really to empower female and women to be more present in front of the camera, behind the camera, so to give them voices. So we do market studies, we do a lot of research, and we are here to empower women all over the world. And I joined the Geena Davis Institute as an Africa Council chair. So my role is really to speak about the situation in Africa, about the women in Africa, how we are doing in the industry, how what we need, and how many women are in this industry trying to be more present and to give them more voices.
Nice. Mona, what are some of the challenges that you faced, maybe specifically in Morocco, maintaining authenticity in your work, and how have you overcome them?
So my work is not only in Morocco, but all over the world. Yes. And I tend to do more and more training and speaking all over in different parts of the world, try to empower the next generation. The struggle that I face in my journey is mainly about being a woman. in the industry, it's still challenging to be a woman and to be considered as someone with experience and a voice that need to be heard. So I basically I had to take my own place, and sometimes it was hard to see in some events where you see many male and a few women who are speaking there, and it's for me before I launched my company I was like I was less confident, really shy, really, and I was just watching, and I didn't think I had my place there because also I'm a self-taught, and I thought it was not, I had no legitimacy to be there. But as maybe because I'm older now, I'm wiser, and I say, okay, I don't care. I have my place there. I have my voice, and this is why I'm traveling the world to speak and to train the next generation to make them know that they have a place and they need to take their place on the industry. In the industry, they can be whatever they want to be in life, in their career. They can be a director, they can be a screenwriter, they can be a producer, they can be a distributor. My main area of expertise is distribution. You can be whatever you want to be, and you don't have to stop because you're a woman. And this is what I want to do with the next generation and all the women that I see during all my trips all over the world, is to empower them and to tell them, don't be shy. And don't wait. Just don't wait. Take your seat. Take your seat because you have a voice that needs to be heard.
Nice. Yeah. Mounia, can you share an instance where your personal experiences influenced your work, like leading to a more authentic connection with the audience?
One of my personal experience, and also it was one of the reasons why I also became independent and decided to focus on diverse stories, is I have a daughter, and when she was younger, she was at school, and some kids called her an Arab. And we live in France. She was born in France, she grew up in France, and we are French. I'm French. And then she came back and she was like, why did they say I'm Arab? And I said, first, you're not Arab, you're Moroccan. Morocco is in North Africa, it's not in the Middle East. So, but they were young, she was 8 years old. And then she started to be bullied because of that. And I said, it's not because you're Arab that you're not pretty, that you're not smart. It's because you are from Morocco, you have this mixed culture that you should be proud of. So, I was not upset with the kids because they are just kids. They don't know, they're not racist. I cannot call them racist, but they are ignorant. So what can I do? At my level, what can I do? Because I'm not the mother, I cannot be the mother of all the kids. I cannot educate them, so I can use one tool that I know, that I'm really close to, it's animation. And the kids, they love animation, they watch animation, so let's use this tool to share a message of diversity and inclusion, of knowing the others' cultures, and celebrating the others.
Beautiful. I would like to ask you both the same question. There's many, I'm sure, but can you share one instance?
Where I felt
where your personal experience really influenced your work, leading to the connection you were seeking, the authentic connection with the audience.
Sure. I had a lot of different, as I said, most of my films are rooted in something that happened, like one event, and I'm thinking, wow, that's really strange or interesting, and I'd like to say something about it. the story that we're working on, which is The Red Weather, is about inclusion of, it's about a lot of what's going on in Italy with the right-wing government and immigration. People, and I wrote a piece where I saw a person being bullied in a town when I was traveling through Italy because they were gay. This was about 20 years ago. And I was really mad, but I couldn't do much about it. And I just thought, well, that's really weird that they're doing that. Even because it's kind of late to be, it's ridiculous to be doing, but it was a small town. And this isn't all of Italy, of course. And this can happen. I'm from Dallas originally, so believe me, it's everywhere. So, and I took the story from there and created a group of little fascists who kind of are, but they're kind of loser fascists. I mean, they're kind of like, they're riding around, they're doing their haircuts and they're doing their outfits and stuff, and they're running around on mopeds. And I thought, well, that's really kind of, and it all sort of came together with that first thing I saw in Italy years before. And things like that. My films tend to be a lot about social injustice, but not where I preach to anyone, but because I'm not one to do that. But I can just show what I've seen, and I come from the South in America, and there was a lot of weird stuff going on there with social injustice, racism, and also sexism and all this weird stuff that as a little kid you're kind of like, why is that happening? It makes no sense. It's stupid. And so that gave me an incentive growing up to want to say something about what I think is ridiculous, and I want to get rid of it. So the only way a lot of us can do things is through our art, I think.
Yes.
It's so important.
Especially you writing, I mean, it's all you, right? Everything.
Yeah, I just get these ideas, and then I from one event usually, but not to take up all the time, but I just wanted to just say that it usually comes from one event, one image in your head, one thing that made you really upset or inspired, and then take it from there and write a whole script on it, and not preach in the script, but it's in there. When I was at Sundance, I met with Robert Altman, and I asked him, I said, how do you get these political ideas in your stories, because they're so funny? And he looked at me, and I remember his eyes were like gleaming, and he goes, infiltrate. I loved that, because he was so cool, So I thought, yeah, infiltrate.
So we are all spies at some...
Yeah, we just
somehow,
spice it up.
Right? We are spies. We look around and we catch little stories and then we expose them.
Yeah, that's a good word for it, expose them.
I think when you have the freedom to write your own material, of course it's easier to be authentic, right? A question for you. You've done a lot of music videos, really nice, good music videos. How is it working with an artist? Because they have their vision, most of them, I guess, I hope.
That's interesting.
How can you get your authenticity in there? How has that been?
Yeah, I think when you come to do music videos, obviously very different from narrative or just pure narrative. So you kind of have to put like a different cap on. So I think for me, it's like you just want to find out what that song means to the artist, what their influences are. Because with anything, it doesn't matter what just because it's like it's not pure narrative or it's like authentic to a storyline. It's humanity at the end of the day. Like music and what they're coming from are like emotional themes. So you kind of like try and put that into your work. So it's like, what are you trying to portray here? What, at the end of the day, you have to find the humanity of it. You want your audience to feel something. So the visuals have to reflect that. So I think in some ways it can be a little bit more difficult because you're playing with a lot of different themes in such a short amount of time. So you have to you have to put it across quite quickly. So when I'm working with music videos, I think I just have to feel like, is there a connection to the music? Is there a connection to what their theme of what they're talking about? And also, does it look amazing as well? So you're kind of like putting on three like three themes that you just kind of need to really focus on, and also keep it engaging, because at the end of the day, there's no like speech or or text most of the time, so you've got to keep that going constantly. But working with artists, they're all different at the end of the day, and they all have their own perception and idea of what the song comes from.
Right, okay. What about, I mean, Afro-Arab, the movie that was screened last week here in Berlin, it's a documentary. Can you tell us a little bit about Afro-Arab, where I think we talked about it before. You were in Dubai and you saw Afro-Arabs, and this was interesting. Tell us a little bit about how you made this film and why.
For sure. So one of my latest like documentaries is called Afro-Arab, and it's basically about the nuances between being African and Arab. And I feel like it's an identity of Africanness or Arabness that I'd never seen growing up in London. I'd never really come across that identity of a black identity or an Arab identity. And so I was a little bit taken away by like, oh, like you guys are Afro-Arab. And obviously that's very ignorant of me, because growing up in London, you're very much open and to African-American culture or Afro-Caribbean culture or Black British or West African culture is at the forefront. So to kind of like have this another narrative or another identity of Arabness or Africanness, I was like, oh wow, I've never really been exposed to this. Like, what is this? You know, do they have the same nuances and experiences that I've had growing up? Because I'm Afro-Caribbean and obviously Black British. So it's like, well, I'm obviously I'm half white as well. So it's a bit, or half European, should I say? So it's a bit like, oh wow, like, do we have a similar connection? And I spent a lot of time in the UAE, and because these people in the film, some of them were my friends, I was like, I would love to create a film that tells your stories and celebrates, Black joy or Arab joy. And then it was supposed to just be like a one-day editorial shoot in the desert, and it ended up turning into a lot longer than that, because I was like, the more I kind of delved into the history, because I love history, I realized that these themes that I was kind of going across couldn't be done in a very, very short period of time. So I extended it a little bit longer, and as you go on, you kind of realize that yes, you want to celebrate them, but they also have some negative themes and experiences as well. So I kind of went on both. I showed both, because I think it would be an injustice just to be like, oh, everything's fine, hunky-dory, when it's really not.
Being authentic, it's important.
100%.
How many minutes is your documentary?
Yeah, it's only 8 minutes long, and it's more of a conversation starter. I'm not Afro-Arab, so I can't tell their whole story like within the 8 minutes. And I think there's so much history, and I think for me it was more like a conversation starter, because when I started looking online, just doing research or books, and I was like, wow, no one has made a film on this before. Yeah. So I really wanted to be like, okay, cool, this is a conversation. So I realized how much history they have between the Arab Peninsula and mostly East Africa. They'd been trading together, and for much longer than Europe and West Africa. So they have way more history together than my experience of dual heritage or different heritage, like culturally combining. So it's only 8 minutes long, but what was a real beautiful thing is that some people who had seen it when I premiered it, they brought their families and stuff like that, and afterwards they said they opened up about their experience. So there's like 3 generations as a family all watching Afro-Arab, and they'd never spoken about their experiences of being Afro-Arab, and it was a massive conversation starter for them as a family. And I thought that's so beautiful, and that's the power of film, that something that you just disregard. It brought up a lot of experiences that they could tell their younger generations, or the younger generations could tell the older ones.
Yes, amazing. Nobody has really talked about this, and I think. Do you think you will maybe make something like a proper long documentary? Are you playing with the thought?
I wouldn't say no to it. I think it's definitely crossed my mind, and I think it mostly crossed my mind when other people were like, "Yo, do you want to make a feature out of it? You should make a feature. I'd love to hear more." And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool. Like this would be amazing." I just obviously, as someone who's not from the Afro-Arab community, like up in my blood, I didn't want to just be, I'm doing a feature on this. Like I can't, if I'm doing something which isn't not my own story, I'd always come with it with the utmost respect and give them a chance to breathe. And if the offer comes along where it needs to be made into a feature, I'll 100% do it if I'm the right person.
Yeah. What are your upcoming projects?
Upcoming projects, I'm currently shooting a TV series at the moment back in the UK that comes out in September. I'm also writing my next short films and feature films, and obviously I'm a massive fan of history and I love to get into history. So for me, it's about really championing stories from the diaspora and from the African continent that are historical, that are meaningful, and that talk to me. And of course, authentic, right? So we'll try and do that, but that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Nice. Mounia, how are you? Are you still with us? Yes. Tell us, please, what can we look forward to see from you in the near future? What are you working on?
I'm working on a short animation movie coming from South Africa. I'm associate producer on the short animation called Naledi. It's about a female athlete, and the producer and director of this movie is a woman. And I tend to work a lot with female producers, directors. I have another series coming from Jamaica, also from a woman director. Wow. And in the meantime, I'm doing a lot of training programs in Africa, Middle East. Really excited about what's gonna come out of this. And otherwise, I'm also writing some stories of myself, but I cannot tell anything more for the moment.
Perfect, thank you. Jane, same question to you. What are you working on?
I'm working on the independent film that we're going to shoot in Italy, The Red Weather, and also working on a film about the French composer Eric Satie, with Jean-Hugues Anglade will play the lead, and we're talking to some different cast for that. I'm really excited about that, and I'm working on a film which I know A Complete Unknown has come out, but I was working on a film about that time period, writing it for the guy that owned the club that they would all go to, like Bob Dylan and all these people. So I'm writing that script about Folk City, and I'm really excited about that. But I'll direct the Velvet Gentleman, which is the story about Eric Satie, and The Red Weather, which I'm doing with Stephen Adams and some other producers. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Anyone has a question? Yes?
Hi, Jane.
Hi.
You just mentioned Eric Satie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this just caught my, everything else you said too, but this especially caught my attention because last summer I went to France, to Honfleur, which was like
his home. Yeah,
his hometown, and I visited the museum, and just like I only knew like one piece of his music, Gymno.
Everybody knows. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, that's what I first heard.
Yeah, me too. It's the only one that I know actually, but I found it quite interesting that he was like an artist that was very influential, but never quite rich or as rich or famous as I might have expected. I didn't know that, but I wanted to know how your approach is on the project. Like, is it gonna be it's gonna be like a biopic or a documentary, or? It's
going to be a narrative film about him kind of when he's older and he ran around with a hammer in his suit and lived in one room for like his whole life with 19 of the same suits, the velvet suits. Yes. He was a complete eccentric, And he never made money,
Yeah.
clearly, but he was a genius. And his pieces are simple, but so beautiful and abstract, kind of. And he influenced Debussy and all the great composers, but they thought he was the crazy guy.
Yeah.
And he was, but he was so brilliant, and I thought somebody's got to do a film about this really eccentric man. And he was with Suzanne Valadon, the artist. And what was funny was he loved her his whole life and had her painting above his bed, and she was his only girlfriend, and he only was with her for like 3 months.
Yeah.
And his whole life it was about Suzanne, and
Yeah.
she was with everybody in Montmartre.
Yeah.
And I thought that is really fascinating because they used to like hide their faces from each other once they broke up. But
Yeah.
so I thought it was funny, but it was also really interesting take on it. And Jean-Yves Anglade is so amazing, an actor. I don't know if you know him from Betty Blue or from Queen Margot. He's so brilliant, and he looks just like Eric Satie. So he's going to play him older, and then I'm looking for a younger version, which is hard. And we're looking at Zoe Seidel, who is Rosanna Arquette's daughter, to play the younger Suzanne Valadon, because she looks just like her, and she idolized Suzanne Valadon. So it'll be very interesting, I think. I hope.
Well, it sounds interesting, yes.
Oh, thank you.
Is it going to be like a European production then?
Yes, yeah.
Nice.
Over here.
Nice. And
France and Switzerland.
France and Switzerland.
Yeah.
Is it also going to be shot in France?
It'll be shot in France.
Yeah.
And we also will include some Dada stuff that formed in Switzerland.
Yes.
Tristan Zara and all those crazies. And kind of, I love this stuff. So, and they were involved with Eric Satie, as you know, when he did his plays and things like that.
May I ask, where in Switzerland?
Zurich.
Zurich, wow.
Yeah.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
We're also from Zurich, so it's kind of
Oh,
nice
you're from
to hear.
Zurich?
Yes,
oh,
yes.
cool. I'll see you later.
Yeah, sure.
Café Voltaire, no?
Yes,
Okay.
I hope so.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
I'm
thank
talking
you.
Too much, I'm sorry.
Mounia, thank you so much for
That's my favorite song.
being with us. Anything else you would like to add? Any closing words?
Yeah, I just would like to ask people to keep writing, keep sharing your stories. I mean, your stories matter, and everybody has something to share. And think about the audience. The audience is so diverse, so we need different stories.
Perfect, exactly. The audience is craving diversity. We are the audience, we are the change makers. Thank you for all your information, your experience, sharing it with us. And thank you for AfroBerlin. Last year I was here and I came to AfroBerlin. I was like, where am I? Because like 10 years ago, Germany was totally different. Berlin is changing, so I think this event is really important to highlight all the changes that are happening. It's a natural, it's not forced. People are like, forced inclusivity, forced diversity. It's not forced. This is evolution, so let's do it. Yeah, thank you.